Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, September 22nd, 2020, and I am Karen Bodenschatz. I live in a construction zone, and I serve as the associate pastor at First Lutheran Church in Onalaska, Wisconsin. And you have found my morning musing on the morning when they're doing construction on this side of the house. So about a year ago, my mom was doing some research into my dad's side of the family, and she stumbled upon a story about my great-grandpa, William Andrew Bodenschatz Sr. Here's a picture of him when he was 48 years old, having just enlisted in the Army during World War II. My great-grandpa Bodenschatz enlisted in the Army with both of his sons after having served in the Navy in World War I. And he insisted on being in the 924th Ordnance by telling them that he and his son, my grandfather, had invented a new machine gun. And he was able to then get my great-uncle Bill out of the infantry and into the ordnance with him and his other son. He insisted also that he enter the Army as a staff sergeant. However, when he was told to go on a 50-mile hike, he declined politely, maybe, because he wasn't going to walk that far ever, and went back to the barracks, packed his bags, and went home. He was in the Army for a total of 2 months. He eventually ended up going to work for Sherwin-Williams, making camouflage paint during the war. I love this story. I love it because it is so a Bodenschatz story. If you had told me that story but left out the names, I would have said, sounds like a Bodenschatz. And I shake my head in wonder and a little bit of like, oh, Grandpa. And I see in me a little bit of him. As I continue to learn about my family and study how family systems work together, I get a chance to get to know myself more and to understand what it is that makes me, me. Knowing my family history is invaluable to my growth and maturity as a human being and a member of society. It tells me what went into building the character of the generations of my family and therefore of myself. And the same can be said about groups of people beyond families, churches, businesses, communities, countries. Knowing our full history helps us to grow and mature and become better versions of ourselves communally. I remember reading Martin Luther's writings in seminary, and some of them honestly were so life-giving. They truly did save me. But others, they horrified me. The things that Luther says about Jews and Turks were appallingly awful. And I vividly remember sitting in my bedroom reading one excerpt about Jews that felt like I was reading an account of Kristallnacht. It was awful. And yet knowing that history, that part of my history as a Lutheran, helped me to grow in my understanding of myself and my church and to work toward making both better. Our history is embedded in our bones. It shapes generations of people. It's what builds the character of any group, which is why, if we seek to be better versions of ourselves, knowing our full history, the marvelous and the appallingly awful, is so important. Knowing our history as human people helps us be more anti-racist than racist as well. If we believe that we as a nation should continue to grow so that all people who live here can prosper, can have a chance at the American dream, then learning a full and complete history of our nation is vital, the good and the bad, which is why books like Stamped from the Beginning and podcasts like 1619 are so important. It's why listening to the stories of this beautiful place we live in from the people who were here before white people is so vital. Because all of these things give us a fuller understanding of our history and our present, of ourselves and our nation. Knowing the things that we don't really want to know, like me knowing Martin Luther's stance on Jews, gives us the opportunity to look at our own behavior and beliefs and make different choices. As followers of Jesus, we are called to love our neighbor. And more I'm growing to understand that that loving of our neighbor is more than just being nice or giving a little hi. As faith grows, we are called into deeper relationship with those around us and deeper relationship with ourselves. It means digging into the harder things spending the time to understand how we got here to this moment so that we can continue to work for the kingdom of heaven in this place. It is hard work, friends, which is why I suppose there's a movement right now that declares a whole ethnic group's history as false or invalid or harmful. It is so much easier to choose to be ignorant than to do the work to understand and to grow. The only harm given in knowing of a full history is to our wrongly held beliefs built on incomplete information. So let's not be afraid of the work and of the ways that the Spirit of God will move in us as we learn. Your assignment for this week, should you choose it, is to listen to or read about a history of a different ethnic group than yours. If you haven't already listened to the first episode of the 1619 Project podcast, do. Pick up a book about the history of this area from the perspective of the Ho-Chunk people. Seek out one historical thing told by someone other than a white person. Learn and grow in love. Be well, friends. Be kind, and know that Christ goes with you.